Welcome. This is the extended demo of Sense and Soul by Forsythia Productions. Their first game, actually. The extended demo. The team behind this game has a Kickstarter coming up relatively soon, which I'll be linking to in the video description for you to check out if you enjoy what you see here. As you can see, the backdrop of this game is going to take place in Victorian London, specifically 1875. And it's going to focus on the story of an editorialist and a gentleman. Hugo Brooks, an editorialist, reserved, staying within his own work, so to speak, and Seamus Charkham, a confirmed bachelor who sooner would move forward blindfolded than look to the past. In their own ways, set in their ways. Desperately in need of a change, but they don't quite realize it themselves. And the focus of their journey feels like it's going to be just that slow burn interactions between them, the ways we slowly change each other over time, and the beautiful things that can develop as you get to know special people around you, see things develop, blossom, see change bloom on the horizon. This is of Sense and Soul. The demo promises about 1 to 1.5 hours, including the prologue and the first part of the first act. There's 2 main routes, or so we hear. We are told, perhaps one from each perspective? I don't know. I suppose we'll see once we dive into this here. We check through here. There's a whole interesting collection of I'm gonna bump voice up here. The demo is partially voiced, so we have voice actors picked out and partially implemented, so to speak. Display speed, gameplay. There are timed choices, which is interesting. Which I wonder, it's selectable, so I like this setting, though. It helps visually, if you're just diving into a scene. It helps visually tell people apart. Especially if there's a lot of characters in the frame at the moment. I like that. But I think that's enough preamble aside. Would we say we start our journey? Also, I love one particular line from the planned features on the itch.io page. A lot of gay pining and introspection. Hell yeah. Sign me up. Let us begin. This is a story about moments in lives lost to time. Countless people have come and gone. We remember them as part of history. Tell me, dear player, have you ever wondered about the personalities, struggles, and joys of people long past? I have. Why? Oh? Is this a... Huh. Oh, is it just a choice that's not implemented yet? I want to know what they knew. I understand. Life is full of enough questions as it is. Even the recent past can blur before one's eyes, let alone the distant past. I love the framing of that shot. Almost like spilled ink flooding into this scene of Victorian England. It's fragmented voices, objects, and events. Oh. Oh, you can see the faces in here. They're hard to piece together from our standpoint. But perhaps back then, people weren't so different from us. The story ahead is an attempt to bring lives that might have existed to the forefront. Share the stories of two men in 1875. And imagine tracing their footsteps through the smog-covered streets of Victorian London. Oh, their lives become intertwined and together begin to bloom and unfold. Through the garden they grow together, though the garden they grow together rests on their actions and choices alone. No one person can tell how their story will end. If my voice starts to crack or strain a little bit, I'm still recovering, but I'm just really interested to give this demo a try. So we're going to fight through it. And yet we regret the decisions we make once we've followed them to their conclusion. If this life story is in your hands now, I wonder, what will you make of it? I will do the best I can. That is all I can promise.
Now then, let's see how we might go about setting the scene.
Ooh.
Yesterday evening, a quiet neighborhood was shocked by scandalous reports that one of its residents was engaged in a most surprising endeavor. Residents were left to question whether they truly understood their fellow man at all. There, even these ordinary little scandals can have a bit of the poetic in them, if one only knows where to look.
That is a very poetic spin.
Oh!
Well, that's what sells the papers, isn't it? We can't all have literary aspirations, can we? Results, not excuses, count. Trying to read what that says on the wall there. No. Could you past 12:30? You. Okay. Enough of that. Very detailed backgrounds.
Ah.
No, not all of us can be Mr. Brooks. Any more of him and this place would turn bohemian overnight. Isn't that so, Mr. Brooks? Eyewitnesses reported that Miss Carstairs' account was,
Huh?
Mr. Brooks? In the interest of preserving the public decency. Brooks! Yet the Daily Creed can only caution our readership insofar as... Brooks! Lost the page again? Hey!
Oh!
Oh, I'm sorry, gentlemen. Were you saying something?
Oh!
Oh, you've just proved my point, Brooks, that's all. When I'd best be getting home, my wife will be wondering after me before too long. Have a good evening. Have a good evening, boys. And Mr. Brooks, trying not to get so drawn in that you forget to go home yourself.
Of course.
Don't you worry about me. I'll be along shortly. Just want to finish this article and then... he's left. In fact, most of my other co-workers have too. Not unusual for a Saturday, but... way home from the evening, then, I suppose. I leave now. I can even stop by the library on my way. Oh, don my hat. And depart from an almost empty office with my bag tucked under my arm. Ah, the editorialist. What a day. And I'm sure Monday will be just as tiring. We are working to a deadline, after all. That's odd. Someone's left a newspaper out. Could have been Mrs. Wright. That's unlike her. And how strange. It isn't the normal paper. Instead, it's...
Really?
the matrimonial news. Seeking the acquaintance of a most attractive young lady. Heavens! Can't imagine how. Or who. There you are. I was beginning to wonder if you'd gotten yourself lost on the way back from work. Oh?
Oh!
Camilla, you startled me.
How are you?
Hello, cousin. I hope it isn't too much trouble that I've stopped by unannounced. No, not in the least. You know I'm always glad to see you. And I you. Besides, I felt awful to not have been by to see you on your birthday 2 days ago. Thought I should at least come by now and make sure the festivities weren't wild enough to overwhelm you. Please, festivities? I had a nice quiet night in, but thank you for thinking of me, and for sending a letter, and your present. Just a letter was appreciation enough. The gift was lovely. Looks like it must have taken you ages. Oh, that's cute. Is that a little, fabric bookmark? Oh. Bookmark is something I can always get use from. I can't imagine the work that goes into embroidery like that. I know, I'm sure most men find it well beyond them. But I worry that you spend the day alone. Surely your colleagues at the Creed must have at least come by to wish you well. No, I'm sure most of them hadn't the slightest idea that it was my birthday at all. And really, Camilla, you know I don't mind. I like the quiet. Nothing I like better, in fact, than a peaceful night at home, with my books to keep me company. Other than a visit from your favorite cousin, I'm sure.
Of course.
Oh, of course. If I had known you were coming, I would have rushed home after work instead of going to the library. I'm only teasing, Hugo. The whole family made peace with coming second to your reading long, long ago. But I suppose that is why I'm here, in part. Of course I wanted to wish you well, but as part of that, I wanted to come by to express a little gentle, familial concern. Oh no. Concern? Concern over what? Well, my dear Hugo, can't imagine it's comfortable for you out here all alone. Do you really mean to be a lodger for the rest of your life? Well, I am comfortable here. Mrs. Wright is good to me as any landlady could be, and the rent is very reasonable for this area. I only mean... Well, I suppose your mother nominated me. Seeing as you and I were always closest to one another out of all the cousins... Come and press you gently on the subject of marriage. What? Oh, don't act like it's such a ridiculous idea. You're just 3 years from turning 30, Hugo. It's well past time you should start to think of these things. And we all worry about you, you know, all alone out here. Only going to work and back with no human contact. Just your books and letters. What is she talking about? My life is perfectly wonderful. There's nothing to be concerned with in the least.
Honestly.
Human? I have human contact. I have my colleagues and Mrs. Wright. And, well, you come and visit me sometimes. But you just said your colleagues don't know you particularly well. If that's the sum total of your list of friends and loved ones, you've made me more concerned, dear cousin, not less. Oh, don't look at me like that. I haven't come to drag you directly to the altar now. I just thought, well, your mother thought, and I agree, that a small reminder that you aren't getting any younger wouldn't go amiss. Not altogether sure about the look on my face. I'm sure it isn't pleasant. I like the perplexed, judging eyebrow. It's a very fitting expression. Chin up. It's not so bad as if you'd been born a lady. You would have started getting these sorts of well-meaning visits a decade ago at least. I'm sure, on the female side of things, that would have been the least of these quote-unquote well-meaning visits would have been the least of your concerns if you were a woman in this perspective. I can only imagine if you're a woman in this perspective, your family could easily have graduated to finding you suitors and trying to arrange it for you. And in that perspective, you have a leg up, Hugo. But still, not entirely welcome visits. And I suppose it was you who brought in that newspaper.
Yes.
Clever as always. Yes. Of course, I'd be more than willing to introduce you to some fine ladies I know, but knowing you, I thought a written introduction might be a little easier for you to stomach. Whichever tactic ends up working is the most effective one, after all. It does sound at least a little less daunting than being introduced in person. I'm still not certain I see the point of this at all. Not the eldest son. Don't need to carry on the family name. Nathaniel has that well in hand, I'm sure. Yeah, but Marriage is still a beautiful thing. Companionship, if not romance, is a beautiful thing, Hugo. Since I met Howard, I won't tell you that life had no meaning before. I'd be doing you a disservice. When I stand at his side, suddenly the future is a lot brighter, and the world a little warmer. Hey, if you find someone who makes you feel that way, being with them, no matter who they are, all the better for you. Of course, I knew Camilla and her fiancé were very much in love. It's obvious to anyone who sees them. But hearing her speak of it in these terms is new, and it's striking. Camilla sighs and takes a moment to collect herself. When she speaks again, her tone is a bit more level than before. Just promise me you'll at least give that paper a look, all right? Have a read over it, and see if you can't find even a single young lady in there who strikes your fancy. Well, only because it's you, Camilla. All right, I promise. And I'm sure that's why your mother sent me instead of anyone else. All right, good. Camilla stands up, taking her hat and gloves with her. Well, with that settled, I'd better be getting on.
Oh,
So soon? I'm afraid I must be home to help with dinner. Howard will be joining us tonight. Really? Well, that's a treat.
Yes.
Yes. He had business nearby this afternoon and promised to make an appearance. But I'll pass by your parents' house on the way. I'm sure your mother will be wanting an update. Hopefully my word will keep her mind at ease for a good long while. Give you as much time as you need to determine a course of action. Just as long as there is a course of action. Thank you, Camilla. It was nice to see you. Truly. Even if you came bearing this. You as well, dear cousin. Good night. And once again, I am left in the quiet. Alone. Well, alone save for the matrimonial news. Sits on the table, forebodingly.
Heavens.
I can't believe she talked me into promising anything at all. What a ridiculous idea. As though anyone could fit their whole self into one little block of text enough to get to know them. So any of it will be of any interest at all. Sure, these are all for perfectly lovely ladies, but I skim over the text. MC, age 24, skillful in housework. Not much to go off of, is it? AF, 30, affectionate, fair, some means. Oh no, she appears to be from Dorset. That certainly wouldn't work. What do you got against Dorset? Oh no. KB, English, Protestant, all right. Seeks engagement as companion to a lady. Well, I won't waste her time then. Oh, that's bold. Respect. After scanning through hundreds of listings, I put the paper down and sigh. Should have known. None of these are suitable for me. Many of them are just replies to others' notices. Oh.
Honestly.
Wait a second, tell Camilla I tried. That's curious. Is that a regular means of communication back then? Like replying to personal ads with new personal ads? Only one more, then I can truthfully say I read through them and found none of interest. Let's see. SC, age 25, of good appearance and position. Seeks to open correspondence with a gentleman of an artistic nature and a mind and manner akin to the advertiser's own. The view to future happiness. Editor has an address. Oh. Artistic mind, huh? Well, I suppose poetry is among the highest forms of art, isn't it? I have to say, I truly didn't expect any of them to be quite so. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to respond, would it? Surely the lady won't write back, but then I can at least tell Camilla I truly tried my best. No one could fault me for that. I'll just write her one letter. That will be all I hear of it, I'm sure. What if she were to write back? I don't suppose I can risk that. Camilla and mother can fuss all they like, but I'm perfectly happy. And I haven't the time to find a wife. Not if I ever wish to be taken seriously as a writer. Well, whatever I decide, I suppose I can wait. Now I'd best find something to eat. Try to get in a little writing before it gets too late. Ah, 2 days later. I stand at the door with my letter to Miss S.C. in hand. Read it over so many times in the past day that the words no longer feel real. Though, given my penmanship, they might as well not be real. I hope she can make out my handwriting.
Heavens.
I really can't believe I'm doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. Oh, Camilla, if you weren't my favorite cousin, I dare say I'd be very put out with you right now. There's a new crease in the paper for my absent-minded fiddling. I smooth it out with a sigh and slip it back into the envelope. Well, no use wasting any more time dithering. I'll put in with the Morning Post, that'll be the last I hear of it, I'm sure. After all, I'm certain no sensible young lady would write back to me.
Oh.
Goodness, is that the time? I better be on my way. I still do have that article to finish.
How are we feeling today?
Morning, Mr. Brooks. You went home the other night after all, eh?
Good day.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Bentley.
Really?
Are you sure it's a good morning, though? You're looking a bit peaky there.
Of course.
Of course I am. Perfectly fine, yes.
I beg your pardon.
Thank you for your concern, but if you'll excuse me. Goodness, do I look that poorly? Pull yourself together, Hugo. It's only one letter and it's out of your hands now. Brooks. Oh, dear.
Really?
Did you finish that article on the Carstairs business?
Oh.
Mr. Colston, yes. That is, I'll have it for you in just a moment. I only had a few final thoughts.
You don't say.
This is the Oxford Press, Brooks. Just to sell papers, not win any blasted awards. Get it to me now. But yet, 5 minutes ago. Yes, sir. Of course. He's in a bit of a temper. Must not be the only one running up against the deadline for the upcoming edition. Better get to it. Mr. Colston may not always be the easiest to get along with, but he does provide a wonderful distraction from thoughts of Miss S.C. Time, I'm afraid, gets away from me.
Hello.
Mr. Brooks, there's mail for you. Time for the afternoon post already?
Really?
For me? Oh, holy crap. That handwriting. What? Oh. Oh, no.
Huh?
No? I'm sorry, nothing. I mean, thank you. I'll just, thanks. She wrote back. More than anything, more than that even. She wrote back right away. Oh, it's just a note from Camilla. Goodness, what's come over me? Of course it couldn't have been the woman from the advertisement. Gave her my home address for return, not my workplace. This whole affair has got me more twisted up than I'd like to admit, it seems. It's odd. I'm relieved, of course, but at the same time, just the tiniest bit disappointed.
Ah.
See, Mr. Brooks, it was only a letter after all.
Oh.
What? You were looking at it as though you thought it would bite your hand off. Or would think you'd never seen paper before. Yes.
I beg your pardon.
Well, if you excuse me, I'm afraid I really must be getting back to work, and, I know. We'll soon have all of our heads we missed the cut-off time for printing. Suppose Camilla might have been right about one thing. It's possible I could stand to get to know my co-workers a little better.
Honestly.
Thinking I'm afraid of a letter. Honestly. Mr. Hammond back to his own work, I can actually read Camilla's note. Dearest Hugo. Let this letter serve as a bit of encouragement to you. I've been thinking of you since Saturday evening. It's never easy to step outside of one's familiar social setting. I know it is particularly hard for you. I wanted to be sure you knew that the difficulty was recognized. Mother is terribly pleased with you, I think. She was most relieved to hear that I had convinced you to try and reach out. You must know that the both of us think the world of you. We only want to see you happy. Now, with all that affectionate nonsense out of the way, I will let you return to your work. Far be it from me to distract you for too long. Yours as ever, Camilla Brooks. Aww. That's kind of sweet. It's always good to hear from her. I do know that she means well. Of course I know that. Whether or not there's a letter waiting at home for my mystery advert girl today, or tomorrow, or ever, that won't change. It's all well and good, and it's easy to say it, but I prefer not to feel so anxious about the whole thing. I suppose there's no sense in worrying. It doesn't make it any easier not to worry.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Brooks, have you finished your damned edits, man? Colston's prompting on the other hand helps more than it probably ought to. I'm writing, I can't be worrying, can I?
Of course.
Very nearly, Mr. Colston. If you'll give me just a few moments. First, the afternoon passes without too much fuss. Focusing on work truly does make it easier to forget my worries, at least for the time being. Mr. Colston certainly doesn't complain. I worry that one of these days he'll combust while yelling at someone about a deadline. But not the day, and not because of me. Get my final edited articles into him, more or less on time. On my way home before I know it. Really, I suppose I've been making an awful fuss over nothing. What a preposterous thing to be so upset about. I'm sure I gave some poor girl a good laugh, that's all. Besides which, it's after all only one letter. Under no obligation to do anything more. Furthermore, so really, is there any cause for dismay? I'm sure that everything will be... There's a letter on the table, right on top of the Evening Times. Just come in the post. Perhaps I could just ignore it.
Ugh,
No.
heavens.
No, I'm being ridiculous. I'm being preposterous. I'm being... I better just open the blasted thing. Mr. Brooks. Oh goodness, here it goes. I was delighted to receive your response to my advertisement. You'll forgive me for saying so, I'm sure, but I found your letter positively charming. I'd very much like to have the opportunity to meet you, so you might get to know one another beyond the page. Perhaps we could meet for lunch at a favorite establishment of mine this coming Sunday. It's on Bishopgate Street. It serves a fine cup of tea, or coffee if that's your preference. Please do let me know if this plan suits. I shall eagerly await your reply. Yours hopefully. Oh. S. Charkham. I've probably butchered that last name. Heavens, I feel like I need to sit down. Well, she doesn't want to meet until Sunday, at least. That's nearly a week. I've got time to decide. Yes. Got time to think about it logically and reasonably, and... Suppose I don't know what's stopping me.
Really?
Miss Charkham seems perfectly lovely. Why, she said she thought I was... charming. Me, of all people. Charming. Perish the thought. I don't remember the last time anyone said something like that. About me. I'm not sure anyone ever has, in fact. It wouldn't be so terrible just to go for lunch, would it? What am I so afraid of? Write her after dinner and put it in the Morning Post. Maybe the Afternoon Post. I'm not sure I should look too eager. The immortal mood. If I respond to your text too early, I will look too desperate. If I respond to your text too late, you'll lose interest. What do I do? The immortal mood, overthinking communication. Some things never change. But I'll write to her all the same, and that'll be all that. Camilla's going to be shocked when I tell her. I might have to stop by in person just to see the look on her face. But perhaps dinner first. Wouldn't do to write on an empty stomach after all. It's not that I'm avoiding the matter. Just taking time to consider it properly. Still, there's only so long I can delay. After a hearty meal, I sit down to a fresh page with pen in hand. All right, I better get this letter written now. I'm never going to. Now, what to write? And her reply? She said I was charming.
Really?
I don't know that I've ever been called. I don't know that I've ever been charming before. Might be a bit difficult to do it on purpose. I suppose we'll see. Just be you. Oh, the desk of Hugo E. Brooks. Letter competition. Mission SC. Dear Miss Charkham, I was delighted to receive your reply. Oh dear, I'm now realizing that my hand might be a bit coarse for this application. I hope she can tell that's meant to be Miss and not a tangle ball of intentional misunderstanding. Well, anyway, and there's not much I can do about it, but keep going. Ooh, boy. I'll be...
Hmm.
Let's see. I like going this route. Let's see. Oh, very swift. Pleased to accept your offer. Yeah, let's do this. Let's send this letter. Confirm. That ought to do, I hope. I certainly wouldn't want to overdo it. She liked my first letter well enough, she ought to like this one as well.
Heavens.
I've certainly spent enough of my evening dithering over correspondence. Can worry about this again when it's closer to Sunday, I'm sure. Let's do it. Ooh, Seamus. The actor. Mind if I join you, Seamus? James takes my mumbling as assent and sits in the armchair across from mine. My, the chairs here in the corner of the lounge really are quite plush. I should sit here more often. Might be sat on some stories of the others, but my rear will be happier for it. I snort, shaking my head. They'd likely follow you over there, if there are rooms to be shared. With only 2 shares? I suppose they could share this one if you would share yours with me.
What?
Sharing a dormitory with you is cramped enough, let alone a single chair. I came, I saw, I conquered. Suddenly, as James had appeared, his expression turned serious. I didn't come over here to bicker with you, Seamus. Seem out of sorts. What's the matter? Nothing's the matter. No. Take a deep breath, my fingers gripping the wool of my trousers. Not nothing. There is something. I don't know. How can I begin to explain this blunder I've made? Why I'm as affected by this as I am? Where to go from here? James presses a short-stemmed glass into my hands. The scent of brandy wafting from it is sweet, with a sharp alcoholic edge that threatens to pull emotions right out of my chest. Have a drink. Take your time. Don't mind waiting. A few hours prior. Oh? Morning of the day I'm set to meet Mr. Brooks dawns bright and sunny. Well, bright and sunny by London standards. It is admittedly nothing compared to the countryside, but I quite prefer the comforting press of the buildings and even the familiar fog from the burning of coal. The house is fairly quiet in the mornings. Truth be told, it's fairly quiet all the time. Though the decor might suggest otherwise. Ooh. It's hardly the first time I've met a potential suitor. Something about the air of mystery, meeting someone I've known only through one solitary letter, fills me. A knock on the door draws my attention, and I look up to see Cornelius entering the room.
Yes, sir.
Sir? Your cab has arrived. Ah, thank you. I've just got to get my hat and put my pockets down looking for my gloves. Where did I put those? I kept to find them right in front of me, extended to me in Cornelius's hand. Your gloves, sir. Yes, right. Pull the gloves on, and flex my hands to fit them securely. They feel strange, smoother and sturdier than when I wore them last. Is this a new pair? Yes, sir. Seeing as you stressed today's outing would be of significance, I thought you might want them replaced.
I see.
And the old pair? Shall I retrieve them? No, it's all right. The cab's waiting. I'd better be on my way.
I see.
Yes, of course.
Take care.
Goodbye, sir. Labeled as the actor, so obviously Seamus is someone of solid renown and standing. I picked the meeting location carefully. Only after receiving Mr. Brooks's letter, I had a few potential places in mind. Crosby Hall, my final selection, has a few advantages. As I draw nearer, my conclusion seems substantiated. Oh? It seemed a promising place for a first introduction. Luncheon bar there is reasonably priced. At this point I can only guess. But it seemed unlikely to be prohibitively expensive, and it is somewhat less formal on account of that. It attracts a sizable crowd, enough to offer a shred of anonymity, as it were. Besides, the food is good. The atmosphere convivial, and the place itself is lovely. I doubt Mr. Brooks is here yet. I intentionally arrived rather early. I want to be able to get a table, ideally with a view of the door. He'll be here soon. Waitress shows me to a table where I settle and watch for any sign of Mr. Brooks. Crowds ebb and flow as luncheon goes on. Perhaps I got here slightly too early. Mr. Brooks certainly isn't late. Far from it. It's not yet our agreed-upon time. But I feel as though I've been waiting for years. Wait. Could that be him? There's a man by the entrance, who, inexplicably, I can only describe as looking bookish. I get up from the table and make my way towards him. I haven't actually seen Mr. Brooks, and he didn't offer a description of his appearance, so I could be wrong. I very much doubt I am. He's facing away. He's looking around as though confused or searching for someone. And he's alone. It must be him. It must. Within arm's reach of him. There's no turning back now. Here it goes.
Pardon me, but are you Mr. Brooks?
Oh, why, yes, I am. And you are?
Turns and I finally see the face of my mysterious respondent. Oh, that's a very striking image. Oh, perhaps Crosby Hall was the wrong place for this after all. After all. The afternoon light streaming in from the tall cathedral windows. There's an oddly ethereal glow to his figure. His eyes take my breath away. Even from behind his spectacles, they look like sunlight on the moors. Vast and verdant, contained in just that gaze. Ah, I'm sorry. I'm afraid I
apologize if I startled you. I just had to be sure I had found you.
I beg your pardon.
I'm sorry, and I suppose you are Mr. Charkham. Oh, I've rushed right past that, haven't I? Yes, I am. It is so wonderful to meet you properly. You're just as I imagined you to look from your letters.
Of course.
Ah, yes, indeed. Good afternoon. I shake his hand, which, despite its size, is cool to the touch. I've managed to secure us a table. Shall we talk there? After you, sir. As I move through the restaurant, I am keenly aware of being watched by Mr. Brooks, who follows close behind me. Am I to his expectations? I mean, I look the type to put up a personal advert. I suppose he doesn't look the type to respond to one. Still, expectations or not, he wanted to see me. Came for the express purpose of doing so. What have I to fear? Upon reaching our table, I pull out a chair for Mr. Brooks, and he sits with a polite nod of his head. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, Mr. Brooks. I don't doubt you're a busy man. Well, I don't work terribly far from here. It was no trouble at all.
I don't believe it.
Really? What a coincidence. May I ask whereabouts? Oh, just on Fleet Street. Really not far by bus. My usual haunts are more toward the end of the Strand.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps we could meet in the middle on future occasions.
Of course.
Yes, indeed. See his rising nervousness. It shows in the tenseness of his shoulders and the tightness of his smile. First meetings are daunting, especially with such an unconventional premise. I'm surprised a man of such stature would be so demure. Take the bill of fare and place it on the edge of the table and hand it to him. The lunch menu here is a set one. The only thing to worry about is what you'd like to drink with it.
Really?
Ah, thank you. I was wondering. A waitress came by to accept our order as soon as I mentioned that fact. With our drinks secured and the first lunch course on the way, I take the opportunity to encourage conversation. Now, Mr. Brooks. His gaze snaps up from the menu to meet mine.
Oh.
Ah, yes? I do hope I can, ease his nerves somewhat. Your letter was so brief. You know at least a little of my interest in the advert I posted. I don't know much all about you. Tell me a little about yourself. Myself? Yes. Well, I'm a writer.
Mm-hmm.
A writer? Fascinating. What is it you write? Well, I'm employed as an editorialist, but, editorialist? What does that entail? Those pieces at the start of newspapers, editorials. I write those. I see. So, you're an editor? No, I'm just write them. I'm afraid. The editor prefers to leave the writing to me. Sighs, wringing his hands in front of him. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this. Become quite tongue-tied with introductions. That's all right. I appreciate your candidness. It's refreshing, really. Why don't I tell you about myself first? Perhaps that will help. Oh, wow. Yeah. Quick choice. Moved to London a few years ago. Enjoy the theatre. Your color's blue. It's a terribly quick few facts about me, but I'm sure we'll come to learn more about one another with time.
Of course.
Oh, yes, of course. Our food arrives in good time. Just we've reached a lull in conversation. We'd both grown quiet.
There's been a tension lingering between us, but it could just be my own fretting.
Mr. Charkham.
Yes, Mr. Brooks?
I fear I must be honest with you about something.
Tightness builds in my chest.
Please. Go on.
You see, that is to say...
No.
Heavens, I'm sorry, Mr. Charkham.
No.
Oh.
You see, I made an error in reading your advert. I had thought that you were... that this was...
But once Mr. Brooks's blank look, blanks fill in my mind. Ah,
You thought I was a woman.
I'm afraid so, yes.
I stare at him in bewilderment. Desire for connection.
How could... Then why...
Questions race through my mind, but what comes out is...
I see. Well, these things happen. I'll waste no more of your time then, Mr. Brooks.
I rise from my seat, holding my napkin next to the untouched cutlery in front of me.
Mr. Charkham.
My face is growing hot with emotion. Embarrassment? Guilt? Shame? Whatever it is, I want nothing more than for this feeling to go away and to leave this place. Reach for my hat and gloves as stiffly as an automaton and bid Mr. Brooks goodbye.
Terribly sorry for the mix-up. Please, stay and enjoy. I'll take care of the check.
Mr. Charkham, wait, please.
Mr. Brooks's outburst is the loudest he's been all afternoon, and the surprise of it stops me in my tracks. Several nearby patrons turn at the sound. Mr. Brooks seems to have surprised himself. Oh. After a moment he blushes, lowering his voice as well as his gaze.
I apologize for my misunderstanding. Please, if there's anything I can do to remedy it, tell me what it is and I will do my best.
He's apologizing to me. Oh, it's almost worse than if he'd shouted me down or fled.
I searched Mr. Brooks's gaze for a moment. His emotion certainly seems genuine. Nonetheless, I take a deep breath and straighten myself before responding.
Mr. Brooks, there isn't anything to remedy. As I said, these things happen. You needn't concern yourself with the matter any further.
But I would like to concern myself with it.
Oh. Now that we've cleared the air,
That is to say,
can we start over?
I may have operated on incorrect assumptions about your identity. And I don't think I am what you were looking for. But I don't see why you should have to leave. I don't see why we can't continue to become acquainted.
He pauses for a moment, wringing his hands.
Your perspective may differ, of course, but I don't believe a conversation with an interesting partner is ever wasted. Though I do suppose that my capacity to be an interesting conversational partner isn't nearly as great as your own.
Good Lord, what a truly fascinating afternoon this has turned out to be. I'm reminded that I'd started this encounter thinking it would be a thrill to meet a virtual stranger. Still, this wasn't what I had in mind. Though I can't help but feel a swell of gratitude for the man. He really is taking this much better than many would in his place. And my goodness, but he's determined.
He sure is determined.
Even as the nervous twitch of his fingers belies the set of his brow.
Respect.
Oh, damn it all. On the contrary, Mr. Brooks, I believe your claim is very strong indeed.
Then...
Remove my hat and gloves and take my seat once again. How many times must he have
It would be a waste of good food not to stay and savor it,
gone through
wouldn't you say?
outcomes like this? Relief washes across Mr. Brooks' features with those words. When you've gone through... how many times did you have to have gone through outcomes like this in order for that to be just an almost instinctual reaction to that sort of... that just stings that pained feeling of, oh God, almost pained feeling at that misunderstanding being brought to light, and then his reaction is almost, here we go again, not again. How many times must poor Seamus have gone through that in the past?
Of course.
Now, I believe we are due for a change in topic. I imagine working at a newspaper must keep you very well abreast of current events.
So that's what happened. An abridgment of it, yes. Placed my glass on the side table with a sigh.
What?
And what happened after? Well, we had lunch, and then I came here. To sulk?
Oh,
Is that what you say I'm doing? I prefer to think of it as rumination. Dramatic rumination. Don't we all? But this new acquaintance of yours, he didn't seem to mind afterwards.
Oh, my.
Must have had quite the shock himself. Some men might have taken a misunderstanding like that quite seriously. If only you knew the half of it, James.
oh dear.
No, he was perfectly pleasant. Very willing. Eager even for me to stay. Then what's the issue? What? It went fine at the end, didn't it? No one's feelings were hurt, at least not after clarifications were made.
I see.
Admit I may be blowing this all out of proportion.
Oh.
Don't be too hard on yourself. Bear in mind what happened with Miss Hawthorne. Glad you're seeking romance at all. Oh? There will be other opportunities.
Oh,
I don't need to be thinking about Miss Hawthorne right now, James. Not everything ought to be traced back to my failed engagement. Damn it, he knows I still like to think of that. He must know. Take a deep breath to calm myself. It's been 2 years now, and I'd appreciate it if he didn't bring it up. Can't very well move on when I'm constantly being reminded of it. James stares back at me for a moment, ready to retort, but he purses his lips instead, collecting himself. I won't mention it again. Thank you. It's just... I sigh, my head falling back onto my chair. I feel terrible that he felt terrible about this whole misunderstanding. It was my advert, after all. Could have been a bit clearer. But how straightforward one is on paper. There are some things words alone cannot express. Is that why you arranged to dine with this new acquaintance today?
Absolutely.
Perhaps the next edition of the Matrimonial News will turn up with other interested parties. Perhaps, we're interrupted by the sound of hasty footsteps as a fellow club member, Mr. Evans, approaches us. Whoa!
Oh.
Seamus! James! I'd barely noticed you were here, off to the side like that.
Hello.
What have you two been in the corner chattering about?
Oh, look who it is.
Nothing for your ears, I'm afraid.
Hello.
Nothing of note at all. But look at the crowd over there, there's something going on.
Oh.
Oh, you must come listen. Mr. Rahim is regaling us with a riveting account of a student duel he bore witness to.
Oh, my.
A duel? With pistols, sabers, or fisticuffs? Have duels ever been mere fistfights? Those pistols, of course. Can't bring a saber anywhere without it getting looks at these Dear me.
What?
No casualties, I should hope. The lucky buggers came away with little more than bruised egos and academic suspensions. One of the student's pistols did misfire on him, but damage wasn't life-threatening. Mr. Rahim attended to the man's wounds immediately. He's alive if it's what matters.
I don't believe it.
Thank God he is. It's lucky Mr. Rahim was there. Suppose the grounds of a medical royal college is the safest place one could duel. No shortage of doctors there. Ah, that explains the pistols. Does it? Does it? Ah, it's getting that bit.
What?
I suppose, what would you do? Duel with scalpels? What are you doing over here? We'll miss the rest. Mr. Evans turns and strides briskly back to the gathering across the room. James and I leave our seats to follow after him. As we make our way towards the center of the lounge, I catch James's attention. James. I'm sorry for snapping at you earlier. I appreciate your concern. James seems surprised to silence by my words, but soon his face breaks out into a great grin. Oh, Seamus, you're rather more soft-hearted than you put on, aren't you? On occasion. Huh. What a little lobster you are. A lobster? What are you on about?
Oh my!
Got a tough outer shell and a soft middle. A lobster. Tough outer shell, soft and buttery inner shell. Your hair's even red. I'd call it more of an auburn. Close enough. Though a crab might make a more fitting comparison, considering how irritable you can be. I know firsthand that your right hook is considerably stronger than your left. That got a grin out of him, which I suppose would make you a fiddler crab. I lightly jab James' side as he snickers. I don't know why that hit me as such a cute, personal touch there. Just seeing that smirk break out on Seamus's face. Oh, come off it. Loath as I am to admit it, there's some truth to his analogy. The exchange with Mr. Brooks earlier was proof that I'm more feeling than I'd like to show. I'd have a friend like James who is accepting of that. Make ourselves comfortable amongst Mr. Rahim's engrossed audience members, who don't seem to notice our delayed arrival. As we listen to the rest of his story, the afternoon simply flies past. Night has fallen by the time I depart, and my dark journey home is brightened only by lamplight. Even hours later, I can't help but mull the day's events over again and again. At the end of our meal, that extended quite past the end of lunch hour, Mr. Brooks had said,
Mr. Charkham, if I may, I have very much enjoyed our afternoon. To be candid, this experience is rather new for me on all fronts. I'm afraid my social sphere is rather lacking. But even if it weren't, I'm certain I'd feel just as I do now. That is to say, at your convenience, I would very much like to continue our conversation on another day.
Oh. And I accepted, against my better judgment. Mr. Brooks is a man who seems to be far more comfortable with letters on a page than being faced with another person. For him to discover the truth of my advert, still wish to dine with me, then invite further companionship despite having every opportunity to leave in the past. It wasn't at all as I expected, most curious of ways. Never returned my interest for one.
This passing fancy will never bear fruit, even if he's within reach.
We have achieved the pining.
And yet, I'm simply left with the desire to know him.
Isn't that the purest desire there is? Back to Hugo. Current events. Okay, so when we are told two routes, it's more flip-flopping between perspectives here. I like this. I guess in my visual novel experience, when I hear routes, I think of like route split branching narrative, so to speak. And even still, given the context of this setting/plot. You might have thought of it as like branching perspectives on the same story, so to speak, but they kind of weaving them together in a way that I like. Advancing the story, but by bouncing back and forth through perspectives. Upon arriving home from my rendezvous with Miss Charkham, I found a note from Camilla waiting for me. Based on the timing, must have been on its way to me before I even left for Crosby Hall. Need a bit of time to think before I was ready to discuss the event with anyone else, however. Camilla and I have been confidants since before we left our respective nurseries. Of course, she would be expecting a tale of romantic beginnings. That had been the whole point of the endeavor, after all. What I had to share with her instead, I was worried it would disappoint her. I mean, she wants us to be happy, and she wants us to not be alone and have some companionship. I think it's a compromise she'd accept. And hey, if there's not that predisposed thought against that sort of thing, I think on the surface it'd be a thing she'd accept. The rest of the family, don't know, but since she's so close to us personally, and deep in my heart there was something else I was feeling too. The oddest sensation. Like I wanted to keep my meeting with Mr. Charkham a secret, all to myself. Quite a silly feeling. Camilla will no doubt be thrilled to know I've made a friend outside of work. She doesn't exactly think the best of my co-workers. But all the same, some part of me seems to want to keep that afternoon, and Mr. Charkham, all my own. Oh, and here we are. So...
Heavens.
Camilla, really, I promise it wasn't as interesting as you seem to be thinking. But that might not be entirely truthful. Come, you're holding out on me. Out with it. I'm sure no matter how badly you embarrassed yourself, she found you perfectly charming. Women don't like a man who's a little awkward. Women don't mind a man who's a little awkward, you know. Should I be offended by that? Well, you see, it's only that. I'm afraid. Is he going to spin it like she didn't show, but I met another interesting fellow in the meantime? Oh dear. Come on, I won't make fun anymore.
I beg your pardon.
Well, I'm sure you're aware that it's not only women who put adverts in publications such as the Matrimonial News.
Yes.
But of course, sometimes a man may be looking for a... Oh, I see.
Heavens.
Yes, well, I imagine my surprise to find I had very much misinterpreted Mr. Charkram's advertisement. Oh, Hugo. Once we moved past the misunderstanding, it was a lovely afternoon all the same.
Really?
Really, it was. It may not have been as I had hoped, but I'm certainly not dissatisfied to have come away with it. I met with a social encounter. Certainly I was embarrassed, but tried to make the best of it, of course. Well, candidly, this isn't what I was hoping to hear you say, but all the same, I am glad, if you are. I am glad. We had a very interesting conversation. Mr. Charkham has invited me to join him at his club in the future. Besides, it seems like I may hardly have time for much socializing in the coming days. What do you mean? I suppose we shall see, but I've received the most fascinating assignment at the Creed. Oh? So then my suggestion would be to investigate this line of thinking a bit more thoroughly.
Ah.
I see. Well, that makes sense. Be a lot more work, though. Yes,
Honestly.
but surely it's worth putting in the work if we're going to...
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Brooks!
Oh.
Yes, Mr. Colston. You better hurry. He sounds serious. Mr. Colston's summons are never suggestions, always commands. They make her way to his desk.
Good day.
There's nothing I can do for you, sir.
Ah, look who it is.
Sit, Brooks. I have a new one for you.
Really?
An assignment, sir?
No.
No, Brooks, a damn pony. Yes, an assignment, man. What do you think I pay you for? To be perfectly honest, some days I'm not certain. I know far better than to tell Mr. Colston that, however.
Of course.
Of course, Mr. Colston. May I ask what the nature of the assignment is? Looking notably pleased with himself, Mr. Colston slams a magazine down on his desktop. The printout on the cover, its title jumps out at me. Hardwick's Science Gossip. You're an intellectual type, Brooks. Are you familiar with this magazine? I'm afraid not, sir. Natural Science releases my... He waved his hand impatiently to cut me off. Yes, all right. Well, have a look at this, then. Flips to a slightly dog-eared page, and I bent my head for a closer look. It's over to the Notes and Queries section, containing a series of correspondences from readers of the magazine. As I look, Mr. Colston taps his fingers over one entry in particular. A gentleman's pheasant hunt. Come to regard as an excellent game bird, but locally extinct for 2 centuries. Displaced and reintroduced.
No.
You want me to read the whole damned article, Brooks? The important thing is the author. Look. Figuring out the author's name. The end of the note. E. Lewis, A.L.S. I gasped in sudden recognition.
Oh.
Oh, I recognize that name. Dr. Everett Lewis. I believe you published a book just last month. I saw a notice about it. Yes, indeed.
Jolly good?
Very good that you've heard of him, Mr. Brooks. That makes this easier. Sir? Assigning you to investigate this Lewis fellow, Brooks. I'm afraid I don't understand. Is a daily degree taking interest in the sciences, Mr. Colston?
Oh.
He laughed so loudly I feel a slight spray of spittle against my cheek. Don't be ridiculous, man. That academic drivel hardly sells papers. This Lewis... He's a troublemaker, Brooks. Stirring up new ideas. That's the story. Writes into this science gossip almost daily. That's what it looks like to me.
You don't say.
Always going on about something. Raising a fuss about birds. According to him, birds ought not to be treated like vermin they are.
Really?
Can you imagine what would happen if we let birds run amok, ruining our harvests and stealing our seed? I mean, birds, man. Birds! Instead of suppressing their populations, we protected them and let them pick our hedges and gardens bare. He's a controversial figure, I'm told, and, well, Mr. Brooks, science may not sell papers, but you know what does? Controversy. Ah, yes. How could I ever forget one of Mr. Colston's most important teachings?
Of course.
Controversy, sir? That's right. Controversy. I want you to find out all you can about this fellow. In particular, Brooks. I want you to find out what he's hiding. What does this fellow have against tradition and against scientific advancement?
Unbelievable.
Is he in the pocket of some shadowy group? Is he pushing some radical agenda? Is this socialist philosophy at work? The damn socialists. Is it vegetarianism? Oh, God. Why was that the line that finally broke me? Whatever it is, he's hiding it. All men are hiding something, Brooks. This one's no different. Can uncover what it is. Well, we have a moral duty to inform the public. Of course.
Jolly good?
Mr. Colston picks the magazine up and thrusts it towards me with a gleam in his eye. Make a bestseller out of you yet, Brooks.
Oh my.
My goodness. I had no idea science was so exciting.
Oh, heavens.
Tell you the truth, I'm not entirely certain that it is. Following my conversation with him, Hmm. I don't know if Mr. Colston's right about birds. Seem to feel very strongly about them. Don't know where this story will lead me, if it even is a story at all. I must admit, very excited to have the chance to speak to Dr. Lewis. And more of his notes and science gossip, and I intend to read his books as well. As I told Mr. Colston, I'm no naturalist. It's always interesting to speak with an expert in the field. Hugo, you're such a darling. Please never change.
Oh.
What? You're so passionate, even though you and I both know you'd much rather be indoors than out bird watching.
Yes.
I'm sure this Dr. Lewis will appreciate the interest in his work. And to hear how your meeting with him goes. Well, you won't have long to wait. I'm meant to meet him later this evening. Oh, so soon?
Of course.
Mr. Colston's secretary, Miss Lee, has already gone to the trouble of arranging a meeting for us. It's after hours, so we should have quiet in the office at least. My goodness, but I shouldn't keep you then. I'll be so interested to hear how your interview goes. Believe me, I'm interested to see how it goes myself. Exchange a few more pleasantries and small updates about our lives, but Camilla leaves quickly enough after that. And sure enough, it isn't much longer before I need to leave in order to meet Dr. Lewis. Oh, let's see, 20 to 6. I should have some time before. Back at the office, I hear the sound of shuffling papers. Oh, Miss Lee, is that you? Mr. Colston's secretary looks up at the mention of her name.
How may I help you?
Mr. Brooks, good evening.
I beg your pardon.
Good evening. Forgive my surprise, I didn't expect to see you here. Yes, well... Seeing as I arranged the interview, I thought it might be prudent to make myself available when Dr. Lewis arrives. In case there are any questions. I will stay only as long as you need me.
Of course.
Of course, I appreciate that you've taken the time. She says this as if... She's throwing him a look as if she's not impressed with his gratefulness, given that probably from Mr. Colston's perspective, she did not have a choice in the matter. I would like to make sure that the interview goes well. I organized it. I cannot let it be unsuccessful. But, well, forgive me, but you aren't the interviewer. I'm sure if this were to go poorly, the blame would be squarely on my shoulders. You being the contact reaching out, Miss Lee, I can see how that would fall back on you. As well as, she stares at me for a moment with a most unreadable expression, then shuffles some papers in her hands, and looks away. She speaks again, her voice is clipped. It's all well and good that you think that, Mr. Brooks. You will forgive me, however, if I lack confidence that everyone else in this office would share your view. She doesn't need to make it particularly clear who she means. I wince, knowing she's right, and a bit ashamed for not thinking of it before. Mr. Colston, if indeed he regards this interview with Dr. Lewis as something that Mr. Lee came up with, will not be benevolent in his judgment if things don't go well. Miss Lee looks at me again, and her passing glance seems to nearly draw blood as it seeps over me. Besides which, I would like to see this interview be successful, so I would like to see the Daily Creed be successful. Unsuccessful publications, after all, do not need editor's assistance. And I like having a job. Nor do they need editorialists. Do you like having a job?
Goodbye.
I shall be attending to the accounts if you need me. Good evening, Mr. Brooks. Miss Lee is a very capable and competent woman, but seems to prefer her own company most of the time. Though, of course, one could say the same of me. On top of that, I will need a little time to recover from her remarkably astute and cutting observations. I feel a bit shaken, and I don't want to feel that way when Dr. Lewis arrives so I can help it. Content for her to return to whatever it is she was doing before I arrived. Ventured to my own guest to gather paper and pen for note-taking. It's hard to decide whether I'm feeling more nervous or excited as I wait for Dr. Lewis to arrive. Nervous because I wouldn't consider interviewing others to be a natural talent of mine, nor is it something I do often. Excited because I have read more of Dr. Lewis's contributions to science gossip and many other works as I've been able to find in preparation for this evening. Based on his words alone, he seems a fascinating man.
Good day.
Good evening.
Oh,
Good evening. Look for the sound of the knock, and in through the door comes a bearded, bespectacled man. Looks round the office, owlishly, appearing to take in everything from my own cluttered desk to Mr. Colston's motivational posters, with an analytical eye. Is that Colston on the wall behind him? At once I know this must be the man I've been waiting for. Dr. Lewis? Yes, and you, I don't believe you are Miss Lee. Am I mistaken?
good day.
No, my name is Brooks. Hugo Brooks. I'm an editorialist here at the Daily Creed.
I see.
I see. He pauses a moment, as though waiting for something. I'm not entirely sure what. Finally, he speaks again. As an editorialist, you, Oh, yes, of course. I cover mainly any issues of public interest, at the direction of our editor, Mr. Colston.
Really?
Not a journalist reporting on the news, necessarily, but rather an essayist, ready to write about any topic which the Creed's readership ought to know about. And that includes you, sir.
You don't say.
I see. So it's you who will be interviewing me, was it? Yes, I must tell you, I'm very pleased to do it. That's good news, I suppose. Still, I do have one further question. Once again he pauses, but just for a moment this time. Though his manner is friendly enough, his eyes are sharp and analytical. That acuity also comes across in his voice when he speaks.
What?
Why am I here, Mr. Brooks?
Oh,
I beg your pardon?
Hmm.
Don't mistake me, I'm not opposed to the idea of speaking about my research with the public. Far from it. I must admit to some confusion as to why an institution such as the Daily Creed, which I understand does not typically concern itself with the sciences, would choose to interview me. Cannot but feel some sympathy for the man. After all, my own reaction to the assignment was not essentially dissimilar. I'm still not clear on what Mr. Colston is looking for myself. Interviewing Dr. Lewis is all well and good, and I'm sure I can write something from that. But the investigative angle for which I'm going to do is...
of course.
We're looking to branch out our coverage to include the breadth of the natural sciences. Simply put, Doctor, the Creed believes that the public benefit from hearing your perspective on our avian neighbors. Getting educated on the natural world is a noble effort, but not one many in here in London are able to pursue. I think it is worthwhile to do what we can to change that. Besides which, as I've said, I must say I consider your research quite fascinating on a personal level. It's all but impossible not to notice the change in Dr. Lewis's demeanor. He's brightened significantly. It's not dramatic necessarily, but it is unmistakable.
Oh.
Well, if you do as good a job as convincing the masses to read about the sciences as you do convincing me to sit and be interviewed, I dare say we'll be in fair shape. You're too kind, sir. Though I'm glad if you found me persuasive. I look forward to having further discussions in depth.
Really?
Your article in Science Gossip on pheasants. I admit I've no huntsman myself. I had hardly realized the implications of their reintroduction to the country. But Lewis freezes for a moment in evident surprise. Good Lord.
I see.
You actually have read my work.
Of course.
Birds of a feather. Of course I have, sir. All I've said in the matter is true. I've seen such interrogation of the various natural creatures which have been brought in from the colonies. And your piece in last month's issue, as stupid as a goose.
Brilliant.
And Branta canadensis himself is a naturalized non-native species, as her name suggests.
Did you know?
It's shouted I've been fascinated by the Christmas roast goose. Such a quintessentially English picture. It's more than half the time a bird of colonial, rather than native origin. As for the alleged stupidity of geese, well, I could have filled many more paragraphs on the subject if I suspected the editors at Hardwick's would let me.
In conclusion.
In fact, I feel we have much to learn from Forgive me, a method's tendency to run ahead of my nature. Manners when it comes to these things. Please don't apologize. I don't have to be proud to speak from such a position of passion and experience. I'll grant that I've never truly heard someone exhibit such passion about geese before.
Really?
If the humble goose is enough to excite you so, I must truly be dedicated to your field of study.
I see.
You're too kind, Mr. Brooks. Nevertheless, please accept my apology. Sudden start. Mr. Lewis's attention is turned to the broken clock by the door. Almost the minute hand is approaching the hour. Almost 7 already. Afraid I can't stand for much longer. I told my wife I'd be back for supper. But that said, shall we arrange a meeting at my home for our next discussion? There are a number of specimens in my collection which I feel would help to illustrate a good deal.
Of course.
I'll be honored, sir. I look forward to it very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Now I'll write you here at the Cree to confirm the appointment. Good night, Mr. Brooks.
Until next time.
Good night, Doctor. Very little additional fanfare. Dr. Lewis is gone. Back out of the door as suddenly as he'd arrived. Well? What an interesting fellow. I'm still not entirely certain about this assignment. I really did speak truly to the good doctor. I'm very excited to discuss his work. In more depth. I rather wonder what exactly he means by specimens. Live birds, perhaps. I may not know the man well, but I could certainly see him keeping an aviary. I leave the office quite quickly after that myself. Dr. Lewis said supper awaits, but so too does the opportunity for me to ponder our meeting. Certainly I had no shortage of interesting individuals entering my life lately. It's no hardship, quite the contrary, but I must admit I find myself almost exhausted by all this excitement. The pain of introversion. Both my private life and my work be the scenes of such upheaval and newness at the same time. It's rather unprecedented. Well, journaling is a practice that greatly helps me in organizing my thoughts, although my entries are brief. And I feel I shall have much the opposite problem. Words practically itch inside my brain as I sit down with my pen and journal. I found myself thinking that I may learn much in the coming days from Dr. Lewis, and of course Mr. Charkham, through our acquaintance, if in quite different ways. Oh. He goes so far as to invite me to his club. And you have me at this kind, the kind of club Mr. Charkham no doubt frequents is almost fantastical. That said, I can't pretend I'm not intrigued to see what the experience will bring, even a little excited. Under my eye, there was nothing to uncover but Dr. Lewis's fondness for geese. Not quite the controversy Mr. Colston was looking for. Never given much thought to geese or ducks or birds of any kind, really. It's admirable that Dr. Lewis doesn't limit his interest in fowl to only those exotic creatures brought in cages from the tropics or the far reaches of the world. It seems like a fitting note to end on. Perhaps it changes in order. In the end, this may be for the best or it may come to ill, but only time will tell. It's a cute little journal writing mechanic here. My entry complete. I close my journal and give a great yawn. We've seen it in two different ways here. One as a way which could potentially shape the plot in some shape or form, depending on how we compose a letter. The other is more of just a reflection moment to sum up the current series of events we're going through here. And it's a nice touch, too. I like the little reflection bit. It's far too late to stay up and contemplating these matters any further. With a sigh, I tuck the journal away and depart for bed. So there's no telling what might come waltzing through the metaphorical door in my life tomorrow. Still, the quiet call of a nightingale outside my window as I tuck myself into bed seems to send me to sleep with a smile. Scene change? Or is this the end? The demo. We're at the hour and a half mark? Approaching it. Aha, we do get a chapter 4. A friend. It's a restless air about the streets today. From my seat in the cab, can see some things are the same as always. The smoggy sky, the hubbub of pedestrians, the uneven surface of the road, which somehow feels even more uneven when going at a snail's pace through the afternoon traffic. All commonplace things. But today they seem to mock me. I departed with plenty of time to spare. I even sent for a cab in advance specifically so that I wouldn't have to worry about flagging one down. Yet the fates seem to have thought of any chance I have of arriving in a timely fashion. Why? I suppose that's for them to know and for me to anxiously ponder. It takes another 20 minutes for my cab to arrive at the Opal. The cabman seems to be as patient as I have been. He'd only just paid his fare and disembarked before he sped off with a flurry of hoofbeats. I pat myself down, making sure my belongings are all in order. I certainly hope I didn't leave anything in that cab. Not too far away, I spot a familiar figure.
Hello.
Mr. Brooks, good afternoon. Looks up at the sound of my voice. It's a good thing he wears glasses with eyes like that.
Good day.
Mr. Charkham. Yes, indeed it is. Have you been waiting long? I apologize if so. You know how the roads are this time of day can be.
Oh,
Not at all. I'd only just arrived myself.
I see.
Good, good. I haven't heard from him today. I'm sure my friend James must be idling around inside. It's almost supernatural the way he appears out of thin air when I cross the threshold to this club.
really?
It sounds as though he's quite the reliable fixture. Indeed, almost irritatingly so. Well, shall we?
Of course.
Please lead the way. After entering the Opal, we had to hand our hats to the porter and ascend up the stairs to the lounge where, as predicted, James is hanging about.
Hello.
Good day, James. As soon as I'd caught James's attention, he noticed I'm not alone and approaches my guest with notable excitement.
Look who it is.
Ah, you must be Mr. Brooks.
Oh,
And yes, and you must be Mr. Ashburn. It's a pleasure to meet you. Mr. Brooks quickly flips off his gloves to meet James' hand with a firm shake. Mr. Brooks, James is a school friend of mine. His family has a construction business.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, James, Mr. Brooks has a flair for poetics, though he's a news correspondent by trade. Ah, a poet.
I beg your pardon.
Oh, I really only dabble, but I should like to be one day.
What?
Do you write poems? Yes. Many of them.
Hmm.
Well, not all of them completed, but, then you're a poet. No need to sell yourself short. Same thing. Same thing if you're a writer. You don't have to finish stuff to be considered a writer. If you write, you write. The only difference is whether you're paid for it or not. James winks at Mr. Brooks. He seems spirited by James' words. I make an internal sigh of relief. I sit by the fireplace at the center of the room, catching the attention of our fellow club members.
Oh.
What's this about a poet? Ah, gentlemen, this is Mr. Brooks, a friend of mine. Mr. Evans, Mr. Rahim, allow me to acquaint you with Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks is an editorialist with the Daily Creed. Mr. Evans is an entrepreneur, and Mr. Rahim, who hails from India, is studying medicine at Oxford. Mr. Brooks reaches out to shake their hands.
Good day.
I'm happy to make your acquaintance.
Hello.
Likewise.
Greetings.
Pleasure to meet you. Editorialist, forgive my ignorance, but does that mean you're an editor?
Of course.
It can be confusing, I must admit. Work is more that of a reporter's. However, instead of reporting on court cases or other happenings, I assist the editor with his editorials. More of an internal correspondent, really. Only in the editor's affairs. He thought editorialist would be the suitable title.
Is that so?
I see. I still don't understand it fully myself. I'll have to ask later.
Ah.
Are you introducing Mr. Brooks to the club, then, Mr. Charkham? Not at present. I invited him here to meet James. They share an interest in poetry.
Certainly.
Ah, a poet, like Tennyson.
Oh, really?
Not every poet can be Tennyson, Evans. That's as if you were like in Mozart or Handel to Gilbert and Sullivan. I'm sure Mr. Brooks has his own unique approach to poetics. I don't mind. It's flattering Mr. Evans would even think of us. Would think all of us are the poet laureate's caliber.
Mm-hmm.
Confess I wouldn't know the difference myself.
Really?
It's all just verses and rhymes, is it not? I'm not familiar with British poetry. There are many poets in India. Most write in Urdu, however.
Oh,
Fascinating. I'd love to read some of their work. Do you know if there are any translations? Perhaps in French. I've yet to find an English translation.
really?
Regardless, I hope to read them for myself someday.
Oh, dear.
Though any translation would undoubtedly be wildly expensive. Once paid nearly a guinea for one.
Honestly,
I'd sooner pay the same for a library subscription. Was it a good book at the very least? Oh, yes.
Oh,
Good thing it was for that price. My. I should be investing in publishing with rates like these.
oh,
You'd be hard-pressed to profit from such limited edition copies these days. The trend has been towards more inexpensive editions, hasn't it? One-volume editions.
Indeed.
That and yellowbacks. But for the leather or cloth over board covers.
of course.
Magazines even. My colleagues often read serials on the train ride in. Well, if I'm to tap into this market, surely I need some fresh talent to entice new readership. Mr. Brooks, how would you like to publish some of your work?
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry? Here he goes again. Oh no. Mr. Evans.
What?
You can't be telling me this wouldn't be a golden opportunity. We could be the next Routledge. He sighs, clearly in a daze.
Oh.
Think of it. Your poetry in every bookshop window in London and beyond. That's a very, idealistic notion.
I beg your
I
pardon.
wouldn't have to give this much further thought. After all, my work has never been assessed professionally, and you haven't even read any of it. Oh, I'm sure you're up to the task. You write for a living.
Certainly.
News articles aren't all that different from poems.
What?
No, they're very different.
Oh,
Worlds,
really?
worlds apart.
Good God.
Universes, even.
Huh?
Have you got any of your writings on you, Mr. Brooks? I have my notebook, but nothing polished.
Oh.
Perfect. Diamonds in the rough, I'm sure. Read us a poem or two, my friend.
Oh, dear.
Evans, don't force the man. It's as though whenever Mr. Evans encounters resistance, he simply looks for another direction to barrel in. His bullheadedness undoubtedly benefits his entrepreneurial pursuits, but in this context, it's getting out of hand. Do we take charge? Check in. I should ask Mr. Brooks directly what he thinks of sharing his work. Mr. Brooks.
Oh,
Yes. I understand it is quite a sudden request. If you are amenable, we would like to hear what you've written. If your poetry might capture one's attention as your letters do, I have no doubt it will go over well. Oh?
really?
The request may have been sudden, but I am certainly willing. I don't often get the opportunity to share my poetry. Who might refuse such earnest, though premature, support? Mr. Brooks produces a small, worn notebook from his coat pocket and flips through its ink-mottled pages. Scratched out words in endless swaths of handwriting covering nearly every corner. There'll be something I can share in here, I'm sure. Ah, here's what I drafted just the other day. Doubt it's of publishing quality in its current state, but perhaps it will demonstrate my poetic style. His gaze still fixed on the page, Mr. Brooks rises from his seat with an unusual determination. The title of this piece is Horizons. Oh? Mr. Brooks gives his recitation. Tweet the line where the sky meets sea, this desire my fate defies. Begin to form connections between his words. The series of events which have led us to this moment. The horizon by night is mere fantasy. At sundown must come sunrise. poem is an expression of a new beginning. As brightness breaks the sun-leaden skies, brilliance blinding, breathtaking. I like James. Delightfully earnest. The poem is an expression of a new beginning. The hesitancy of taking untrodden paths, surprises that come with doing so, the lessons one can only gain with such experiences. As brightness breaks the leaden skies, brilliance blinding, breathtaking. Ahead the horizon graces my eyes, and through daylight unknown, I take wing. Above all this, it expresses delight. Delight that the path turned out to be one worth taking. Soaring, no longer lingering. Winds dance, caressing my face. With the crisp aether, I look and cling to this never, newer, dazzling place. At the horizon he now sees the feet of serendipity. As I fly, that distant dawn stretches on and forever on. Yeah, I cling to his every syllable. It's foolish, I know. Try to rid myself of that sort of attachment. Even so, I can't help but think I may have had some part in inspiring Mr. Brooks's poem. Same uncertainty I faced as I sent him that very first letter. Same shock he felt when we met. He certainly felt, rather deeply. Despite it all, the gratification he now feels, I feel in kind. Our friendship may not have been begun in the most conventional manner. As it stands at this moment, I wouldn't change a thing. Aww. The applause around the room quiets a short while after Mr. Brooks makes a profound yet bashful bow of his head and sits down.
Oh my!
Bravo, Mr. Brooks! What a moving composition! The theme of Horizons is one much explored, but the sincerity of your interpretation is marvelous.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Ashburn. I often do write as reflective practice, but I feel this poem was especially candid. It certainly stems from recent developments in my life.
is that so?
I feel much the same in regards to my new horizons here in England. I've experienced many things I never would have had otherwise had I stayed in India,
Indeed.
and I'd have missed the many sunsets I saw during the long ocean voyage here. I'd love to take such a journey someday. Yes, though the seas can be as turbulent as they are picturesque.
Really?
Surely the ocean, as vast as it is milder than an omnibus on cobble. As the conversation continues, I rack my brain for something to say about Mr. Brooks's poem. I am perhaps not the best judge, familiar with poetry as I am. I can say, Mr. Brooks, your poem very much resonated with me. There are some lessons one may never learn until change presents itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm delighted to hear the course of your life has brought you such satisfaction. Mr. Brooks' surprise at my comment leaves him momentarily speechless. Before nerves can take hold of me, his expression turns warm and fond. Well, might attribute some of that to your influence. I'm here today, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
It seems that you are. In contrast to his earlier excitement, Mr. Evans is uncharacteristically quiet. Uh-oh. He appears to be deep in thought. Horizons, eh? I'd imagine you're all too familiar with those, Evans.
Certainly.
Yes, figuratively speaking. Horizons on the open sea. Never!
Oh,
Mr. Rahim, you must tell me about your travels. What was your experience as a passenger like? Would you say there were opportunities for improvement of the services on board? You certainly pivot quickly.
oh,
Do ocean liners have libraries? I feel that would be crucial if one were to spend extended time at sea. Yeah. Certainly pivoted. Very drastically pivoted. Oh, Evans. If Evans was in present day society, would he be an entrepreneur, bro? But he does seem earnest, at the very least. I'll give him that.
Oh,
Damn, not a cab in sight. Must be on the main roads. Should have asked for the footman to call one. Perhaps there'll be a few in the next street.
Really?
That's quite all right, Mr. Charkham. I do hope your landlady isn't too ruffled by your tardiness to supper. I'll happily reimburse you for any damages which may ensue. Mrs. Wright isn't as severe as all that, despite the dramatic anecdotes I've shared. Worst I'll suffer is a light scolding and a saucier of cold gravy. Thank goodness for that.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a child, my mother would send me to my room without so much as a breadcrumb if I were late to dinner.
Oh,
How stern of her, given I would often arrived home covered in mud and bits of grass from playing in the gardens. No matter how ravenous I was or how much I protested, she insisted I had to be bathed and dressed first. I was always well fed afterwards. Oh, okay, that's relief.
really?
Sounds like you had an eventful childhood. When living in the countryside, my sister and I had to make our own amusements. Scrapes, bruises, and all. You wouldn't have caught me bolting outside as a young boy. London is no place for children to frolic, but for one thing, I was always the bookish type. Never strayed too far from home.
Mm-hmm.
That aligns well with what I know of you. Oh? Not straying too far from home. Not in a bad way. You're reserved. As are you. Me.
Of course.
You did come across as much more sociable when we first met. Extroverted introvert? An introvert? And a pure introvert? However, as I come to know you, you've learned you're thoughtful and care a great deal about how others may feel. Oh,
I see.
and you flatter me. You fall quiet and I fiddle with the layers of leather between my gloved thumb and forefinger restlessly. The air is muggy with the humidity of fallen summer rain. My breaths feel shallow for another reason entirely. I could go back inside and ask for a cab to be called here. There could even be several waiting just around the corner out of sight. For as much as it's clear the afternoon has ended and it's time we parted, I don't want to be the first to admit that. Not just yet. Silent tension breaks. It's Mr. Brooks' voice I hear.
Thank you for inviting me here, Mr. Charkham. I'm glad I came today.
I'm glad you did as well.
That you regard me in enough esteem to invite me here in the first place is moving. I can count the number of people in my social circle with just the fingers on my two hands. Even less for those I consider friends.
You can add another few to that list now. James, I'm sure, you won't have had the last of.
Certainly.
I'll have to put his name down after yours.
Oh. I found myself caught off guard by that simple statement. We are friends, after all, at the very least. I haven't given the matter of friendship much thought after our first meeting several months ago. The possibility of standing here together like this would never have crossed my mind. Yet here we are.
A friend? We're friends.
A strange sense of serenity washes over me. I glance toward Mr. Brooks only to catch him looking back at me. He averts his gaze with a start, leaving me to wonder how long he's been staring. The pining begin.
I might have a bit of a stroll, actually. It shouldn't be terribly far for me to get home from here.
Oh, by all means. Please, don't dawdle on my account.
Come with me, come with me, come with me.
Well then, I'll be heading off. Until next time.
Mr. Brooks raises his hand in parting as he turns to leave, and I return the gesture.
Goodbye, Mr. Brooks.
I return from the airport to the constant quiet of my home. It's not an unusual thing for it to be so silent. The study feels more bereft than usual, having just been in such spirited company. Absent-mindedly, I reach for my uncle's old singing bird box and wind it up with a few twists of its key. I slide the latch, and with a pop of the lid, the little multicolored bird inside rears its head, twittering, twisting, and flapping its mechanical wings in a frenzy. The song is as realistic as clockwork can achieve, but in the quiet, it sounds too harsh and metallic on my ears. Once a time that this box was a wonder to me. Be a solitary songbird trapped in a box with no one to sing for. You think of no lonelier life than that. Aww. And there we have it. 2 chapters from each perspective. And the building of their relationship in that time frame alone is delightful to see. honestly. I was gonna say, I find myself really curious to learn more about Seamus and what he's been through up to this point. We know that there's a bitter, failed relationship in Seamus's backstory, and based on his reaction to Mr. Brooks's reaction, to their meeting and the misunderstanding therein, that this, despite it being one of the lighter ways that could have gone, but still enough to sort of trigger that its instinctual reaction of time to go, time to go, time to go, time to go, time to go. How many times has Seamus gone through that up to this point? But honestly, that misunderstanding and all this brought together realistically two people longing for some kind of connection. Even if Mr. Brooks does not really realize it. But God, I find myself wanting to know more about Seamus, but I find myself directly relating to Hugo here. Living this sort of life with a small social circle. Not necessarily having that family pressure, but very much having the thought of small social circle, and every time that changes in the slightest, it's a daunting experience to try and put yourself out there. But just the daunting experience of taking that leap, putting yourself out there. And once you do, you just might find that something you enjoy more than you ever expected you would. Oh gosh, I really enjoyed that. That was really sweet. Let's return to the title. Whoa! What? I returned the title. Let's return the title. Yes. Not sure what happened there, but yes, I'll have the links in the description for you to check out if you were enjoyed what you saw. Give the Kickstarter a follow. I admit I don't have the exact date the Kickstarter opens on hand, but give the Kickstarter a follow to be informed when it launches, or if it has launched, throw it a few smackaroos to see a lovely, wholesome story of connection between two closed-off guys in Victorian England looking for something new and beautiful, looking to grow and connect, expand their horizons, find that companionship. Check it out. Really. And thanks to the team at Forsythia and Ingrid for reaching out to me about this. It's, honestly, going to say, I definitely have a good impression of the kind of games I play, but yeah, that really felt this a lot more than I was expecting here. That really resonated with me so far, a lot more than I expected here. So I really enjoyed this. Thank you for sharing this with me. I'm glad I was able to recover well enough to do a proper playthrough of it. There's a whole bunch of little wonderful, charming, soft touches to the game that really gives this a warm aesthetic to it. I really enjoyed. And the voices that we heard so far are really good, too. So we have a few things to look forward to here. We have Hugo's interview with Dr. Lewis, Hugo's budding poetry career, Hugo's horizons expanding. Well, it seems like the angle of Seamus's story is moving to let go of the past, in a sense. Like I said, I feel like it got introduced to a lot of Hugo's horizons expanding, but it feels like, at least the impression I'm getting so far from Seamus' side of the story, is letting go of all the hurt and the pain that he's been through on account of his feelings and how he is, to move forward into this expanding, growing, expanding world that he's found himself in. Curious to see how Seamus comes through this too. How their two stories intertwine even further. It's really nice. I think we really needed something a little warm this June. Glad to see this forward. This was really nice. But yeah, I do want to see some more here. Feel free to... Oh, more extras to be included. Other? Oh, it's our... Oh. I like that. It's a full shot of the... Things don't sound quite right. I like that. But yeah, it just has a really warm and welcoming mood to it that I really enjoyed. So yeah, Extended Demo 2.0, give it a check. Check it out. Check out the Kickstarter when that comes around. Give the devs a follow. And show them some love when the Kickstarter goes live. I hope you enjoyed this game. Hope you enjoyed the story so far. I sure did. And I will see you on the next time. Until then, I thank you for watching.